of WebEx.
Thank you, Bob. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. As Bob mentioned, today we are doing a WebEx 101 session. So this is basically for people that are new to WebEx. For those of you who have used WebEx before, hopefully you'll learn a few things today, but today we're really focusing on more of the basics for new users. So we're going to go through the URL, the desktop app, the Outlook plugin, and then we're going to hop into a meeting itself and go through some of the main functionality inside a meeting. You can go to your bottom of your screen over to the right. There are 3 little dots. You can click on that and it opens up a Q&A panel. If you have any questions during the presentation, please post them in the Q&A panel and make sure you're directing them to all panelists. If you direct them to me directly as the host or presenter, I'm not going to see them because I will be presenting. But when you direct them to all panelists, then my fellow team members will be able to answer them. Okay, so I'm going to stop my video and start sharing my screen, and we'll get started. Okay, the first thing we're going to start with here is the URL. So every organization has their own WebEx URL. What we're going to be looking at today is Aspire's because that's where my license resides. Once you are set up as an active user in WebEx, you will be able to log into your organization's specific URL. When you log in, this is the landing page that you'll come on, the home screen. So we're going to go through just kind of a few of the key features here. You're going to see a lot of different tabs, a lot of different content. We're not going to go through it all because it is a lot, but I want to just kind of hit some of the highlights so you have a good understanding of how this works. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about here is you'll see this Elizabeth Fitzgerald personal room. So in WebEx, you can schedule a few different types of meetings. You can schedule a traditional WebEx meeting, or you can schedule a meeting in what's called your personal room, which is also a virtual office. So what's the difference? So just like an office in a building, your virtual room or your virtual office, your personal room, the location, the link for that room or that space always remains the same. So it's right here. So whenever I schedule meetings in my personal room, in my virtual office, I will always be sending this same link to people, which means basically I'm giving everyone the address of my virtual office. So it's something to think about because then they'll always have it. There is ways to lock your personal room, and I will show you that, but it's something to think about when you're passing that out because then once they have that link, they can click on it at any time. You can also schedule a WebEx meeting, more traditional meeting, and the link that will be sent for those meetings will be unique to that meeting only, which means if someone tries to use that link again in the future, they will not be able to go into a meeting. It's only good for that meeting. So why would you schedule your personal room over a WebEx meeting or vice versa? It's really a matter of preference. I have a tendency to schedule a lot of my internal meetings in my personal room. It's like popping into an office, and you see here I have recent personal rooms. These are people that I meet with often or recently, and I can click on their icon and it'll bring me right into their personal room as if I'm popping into their office. But if I'm scheduling meetings with either people outside of my organization or I'm scheduling meetings that are back to back, I will schedule them as WebEx meetings. Because like I said, when you schedule in your personal room, as if you're scheduling in your office, if you schedule a meeting in your office at 9 and you schedule a meeting in your office at 10 and that 9 o'clock meeting goes over or that people for the 10 o'clock meeting show up early, everyone has that same link. So you run the risk of your attendees bumping into each other from different meetings. When you're scheduling back-to-back meetings using the WebEx meetings, each meeting list, each participants for each meeting get their own link, which means they would never bump into each other. Okay, so that's the difference there. So let's go back and take a look at this URL again. So there's that personal room. It's my information of personal room. Start a meeting basically means just opening up my personal room, opening up my office. I can easily open this up and send someone that quick link and say, hey, just jump in my personal room for a quick meeting. Or I can click schedule. It'll take me to the schedule, which we will go through. And then below, I have my upcoming meetings for the day. And from here, I can actually join or start the meetings. And then you'll see some other things. Here are those personal rooms we just talked about, and then some analytics in terms of the meetings and the participants in meetings I hosted. So let's click schedule, and I'll quickly show you how to schedule a meeting from the URL. So it brings you into this scheduling page. You can see by these little stars that these are the only two fields that are actually required. So we'll step through them one by one. Scheduling for myself. If you are a delegate on someone else's calendar and you need permission to schedule on their behalf, you'll find that information here. So Amanda, Selena, and Josh have all granted permission for me to schedule on their behalf, and I will show you where to set that up. So I can actually set up a meeting on Amanda's behalf right here, but it'll default to myself. The meeting type defaults in based on your subscription. You don't have to update that. Meeting topic, this is just a default. You can name this anything you want. You'll see there's a meeting password. What we're doing right now is we are scheduling a WebEx meeting, not a meeting in the personal room, and a password is required for all WebEx meetings. Cisco has added this extra layer of security to help prevent people who perhaps just obtain a meeting number from jumping into a meeting that they don't belong in. When you schedule a WebEx meeting and you invite participants, they will receive an email invitation. When they click on that invitation, they will not be prompted for the password. The only time this password is enforced is if someone tries to maybe put a meeting number up here or go to webex.com and just enter a meeting number. They're not joining from an actual invitation, so Cisco is requiring them to enter that password. That said, I do like to update this for myself. I make it something simple, just in case someone I did invite to the meeting, or maybe at last minute is coming to the meeting that I do want there, cannot get into the meeting, and they're getting prompted for a password. Maybe they don't join by their invitation, maybe they just grabbed the meeting number and typed it in, maybe they're just not joining the most optimal way, and they're getting asked for a password, and the meeting has started, and you're getting frantic messages. You want to make sure it's something that you can easily relate to them, so that's why I do that. Date and time, here you can update this. You can make this, and like this for Saturdays, it doesn't bump into anything. And duration at any time. Your meetings do not end if you make it for an hour and your meeting goes to an hour and 10 minutes. Your meeting will not shut off. I can make these reoccurring. So if I have a pattern, weekly, daily, monthly, yearly, and whatever choice I make, the options will update. Here is where I enter attendees. So I can enter Vito. Vito is someone in my organization. And then here's a Y mail address I have. I'm going to show you just a few advanced options here, nothing too crazy. Audio connection, you don't have to worry about this. Agenda, if you want to put an agenda for your meeting, you can type it or copy and paste in here. And then here's the only thing I want to quickly show you, co-host. A co-host allows someone else in your organization to help you moderate and run the meeting. So a co-host can help you mute and unmute people, expel people, run breakout sessions, a lot of more advanced features that we're not going to go through today, but it's always recommended to have a co-host in the meeting just to kind of help you out in case you need it. So I have this set up, it's default from my last setting, that the first person to join the meeting from my organization, so someone who has a host account on this site, the site being aspire.webex.com, becomes the co-host. But I could also choose, let me choose co-host for this meeting. And as I've corrected that option in terms of let me choose, you can see I now have this feature up here. So here I'm seeing Vito Merla is part of my organization, and then this Y mail address is not. They're not part of Aspire. Next to Vito's name, I have this new icon where I can choose to make him an attendee, and I don't have that ability for this Y mail address. So remember, as you're scheduling meetings and choosing co-hosts, it must be someone from your organization. Okay. So I'm not going to go through all the advanced options today because we're just kind of doing more of a one-on-one, but I did want to show you that so that you can have co-hosts for your meeting. At this point, I can schedule my meeting. I can also save it as a template. Perhaps I am creating a meeting, I'm inviting a bunch of people, I'm setting some advanced options, and I know I'm going to have this meeting again, but I don't have a consistent cadence in order to make it reoccurring. So I might want to just kind of save it as a template. So the next time I come in to schedule a meeting, I can go to my meeting templates up here and find that template there. One example I use is Board of Ed meetings. Perhaps they're usually the first Tuesday of the month, but on this month and that month, because of holidays, it's moved to Wednesday. So you might not have a reoccurring pattern for that, but because you're going to be scheduling that repeatedly, you can actually create it as a template. And then I click schedule. And here's my meeting itself. So here are my invitees. Vito is the co-host. And here's the information. And there's that meeting link. You see it doesn't look like the meeting link for my personal room. It doesn't have my name in it. This meeting link is only good for this meeting. Okay, go back to the home screen. So we went through here, we talked about personal room versus WebEx meetings. We talked about how you can join your meetings here right from the home. And then we went into schedule to actually schedule a WebEx meeting. I can go in here and take a look at my meetings. Also, I can change the date range. I can show earlier meetings so I can see more from there. Recordings. As the host of a meeting or an event or a training session, I have the ability to record. Only the scheduling host has that ability, so your co-host cannot record. When that meeting is over and the recording is ready, I will receive an email from WebEx telling me it's ready, and this is where I can come and find it. Let's hop into preferences real quick. So in preferences, you're going to see a lot of information here, a lot of content, and a lot of it will automatically fill in for you based on the way that your administrator has configured your site. There are definitely some things that you can go in and update. I'm only going to show you a couple today, but I encourage you to take a look around. So one of the things I did want to point out, something we've already mentioned, is scheduling on behalf. If you are someone that's scheduled on behalf of someone else, that person must put your email address here. So scheduling permission, I've given Selena Newhouse and Christina DeSimone permission to schedule on my behalf because I have their email addresses in here. Now remember, in order to schedule on behalf of someone else a WebEx meeting, that person must also have a license on your WebEx site. So you can't just pick somebody outside of your organization. It will not work. Okay. The other thing I want to point out here is recording. You can choose the recording layout, the way you want your recordings to see, and you can change this at any time. So when you're sharing content, perhaps you want to see that film strip up at the top of the people in the meeting. Maybe you only want to see the active speaker, or maybe you're only showing the content. Perhaps you are scheduling some sort of class or training session, and you're just going through some slides. You're recording it to share with students or coworkers. Maybe you just want to show the content here. And when the meeting has no shared content, you can decide how you want the videos to be seen in a grid pattern, the stage with the active speaker there and the film strip on top, just that active speaker, or blank. You can update this at any time, and it will apply to all future recordings after you update. So you cannot update the recording layout of a meeting that has already been recording. You cannot update that, that layout. Okay. So we went through some of the basics here. You should know how to schedule a WebEx meeting from the URL, how to join WebEx meetings from the URL, update a few preferences, and find your recordings. So now what I'd like to do is bring up the desktop app. And here's the desktop app. It's, oops, I just clicked off of it. Sorry about that. This is kind of a shortcut to being able to join or start meetings, or even schedule or start a meeting. So here's that same button, that start a meeting button that we saw over here, and that will open up my personal room. There's that personal room link again. I can click schedule, and I have this set up, the schedule to go into my Outlook plugin. We will be reviewing that next. So I can schedule from there, but you can also update your preferences to click schedule and bring you into the URL. If I have a meeting number, I can enter here, or I can click on the space, and here are those personal rooms again, similar to what we saw over here. So I can easily click on their name and pop into their personal room. a couple things just to show you in preferences. You'll see also there's a lot of different things that you can update in here. I just want to show you a few things. Here's that the calendar of the meetings list. So this meetings list comes actually from my Outlook. So you'll see on there are meetings that might not be WebEx meetings, but I get to see actually my whole schedule here, but I can also choose to just have WebEx. I can also choose how many days I want to see. It's listed here for 14, but you can update it for just the current day or a week. And then clicking that schedule button, I have that set up to go into my Outlook to schedule, or I can change it and come into the website meeting scheduler here. The other thing I just want to point out is notifications. I like to receive a notification or reminder 15 minutes before the start time of my meeting, and it'll pop up reminding me the meeting is going to begin. I can update that to show it as 5 or 10 minutes, or I can turn it off altogether. So if you're getting multiple notifications and you want to reduce the amount of notifications you have, this is one way to shut them off. Okay, lots of other things you can update in here. I encourage you to take a look around. For today's purpose though, just the 101, just kind of going through some of the main features here. All right, so you can see from the desktop app, we can go in, we can open up our personal room, we can join or start meetings from here, go into other people's personal rooms, and then click schedule and update some preferences. Now I'm going to pop into my Outlook calendar and we're going to go through the plugin. So once you have your license activated and you have productivity tools and the desktop app installed, you're going to have this plugin over here. This allows you to schedule WebEx meetings right here in your Outlook calendar. So I'm going to go through and show you a few ways to do that. So here I can schedule a WebEx meeting, a personal room meeting, or what's called a personal conference meeting. And personal conference meeting is really just a conference call. For today's purpose, we're going to go through the two main ways, and that's WebEx meeting and personal room meeting. So I can click schedule WebEx meeting. And it brings me, sorry, it's opening up another screen here. It brings me into here for scheduling. I can put the title of the main meeting. I can add attendees. I can make some attendees optional. I can update the date and time right here. I can make it reoccurring. And again, I'll have the same options, which will update as I choose. If your organization is set up where you can reserve a room, you'll be able to do that here, or you can type in WebEx or an address. If I want to put an agenda, I'll put it here. Okay. So now we are scheduling a WebEx meeting. I want to show you one extra thing here. Up at the top, here I can cancel the meeting or I can change the settings. The WebEx meeting's been added, but we don't have the details yet because I haven't saved or sent the invitation, so the actual links have not been generated. I'm going to go into change settings here, and here are some of the settings that we looked at on the URL. Meeting password, remember this is a required field, so you can update this here. Here's another thing that's nice to have. Attendees can join the meeting before start time. I like to allow people to be able to join a couple of minutes before. It gives them some extra time to get their audio and video set up, or if they're sharing content, they're ready. And then this way, everyone's not scrambling at the actual meeting time. Resources. Here are the two people. Who are the resources I've invited to the meeting? I can actually make one of them a co-host right here. And click OK. So now we still don't see the meeting information because we haven't saved it or sent it. I'm actually going to save it. This is not a step that you have to do. I'm only doing this to show you the meeting details pop in. Otherwise, you could have just clicked send and you would see this quickly populate as it disappeared. So I wanted to show you this here. So here's that meeting password we updated. Here is the link for this meeting only. This is the meeting number for this meeting only. This link will only work for this meeting. So you cannot grab this information and send it to someone else to meet at another time, similar to as you can with your personal room, because that link remains static. Okay. Then actually, I'm going to make this for later today so we can see it on my calendar. and there it is down on my calendar. I can go in and schedule a meeting in my personal room. Looks a little bit different. So here, the information populated right away, and that's because this information never changes. My personal room link, the meeting number, the dial-in information is always going to remain the same for my personal room and is unique to my personal room only. So I can do a lot of the other things I did before, test personal room, meeting. I can invite people, make someone optional if I want. I can make it reoccurring. I can update the date and time. Let's make this one later tonight too. Doesn't bump into anybody's schedule. I can choose to actually put an address if I want, or I can type WebEx. I can put my agenda here. I don't have that option for the change settings because remember, this is not password protected. So now I can click send. And there it is on my calendar. So you can see you can actually schedule from within the URL or right here within your calendar. When you click schedule from the desktop app, you can choose whether it sends you to the URL or the calendar. It's really a matter of preference of where you want to schedule from. I tend to schedule a lot of my meetings right here in Outlook, just so that I can see the holes in my schedule and anyone else in my organization that I need to have included. All right, so at this point, I want to jump into the meeting itself. And this is a meeting in my personal room. So I can join right here from my calendar. I'm dragging this from another screen, I apologize. So here's this pre-meeting window that will pop up anytime you go to join a meeting. I think this is great because this allows you to get all your settings set up. What is my audio? How am I going to join? For today's purpose, I'm not going to connect the audio because we're connected already in the webinar and I don't want to hear that feedback. So I'm going to say no, don't connect audio. I can start my video. And here I have my video set up. So actually this is a different screen for me, but I can go in and change the background. Cisco has some predefined backgrounds that are included. And then you also are able to upload any from your company or any other approved background. Or I can even click blur if I wanted to, and it kind of blurs the background there. Remember, if you're having any kind of bandwidth issues, maybe you are logging into WebEx meetings from home, the first thing we recommend is to shut off the camera because it'll be a better experience. And if you are trying to use virtual backgrounds and that is creating a bandwidth issue, I am told that blur uses less bandwidth than the other custom ones. So I can decide at this point, okay, I have my audio set up the way I want, I have my video set up the way I want, and then I can start the meeting. So I've gone into the meeting. Tamara is already in here. She's in my personal room. I had invited her previously into this meeting, so she joined early. Hello, Tamara. Okay, so I'm going to go through some of the main features in the meeting itself. There's a lot of different options, and there are some advanced features that we can kind of point you to some more information on. But for today's purpose, we're really going to go through some of the main functionalities. You have a good understanding of how to function inside a meeting. All right, so for those of you who have used WebEx in the past, there used to be icons in the middle of the screen that you kind of have to hover over to find. They weren't very well labeled, and you really would have to kind of use your mouse to try to find them. But now Cisco has designed this bar at the bottom that has all the buttons, and they are clearly labeled. So let's go through them. So connect audio. So as you saw in that pre-screen, that pre-meeting window, I chose not to connect audio, but at any time during the meeting, I can always choose to change my audio connection. And it's important to note, so if you're at your office and you've joined from your desk phone and you need to leave, you don't actually have to leave the meeting. You can change your audio to your cell phone and stay in the meeting and just switching your audio. I can start and stop my video at any time during the meeting. Sharing content is a big part of this platform, and I'm sure something everyone is interested in doing. There's multiple ways to share. You can share your screen. So I'm at work right now. I do have 3 screens. You can share an application that you have open, or you can go in and share a file, another application that may not be open, or even a whiteboard. Today, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about sharing a screen versus sharing an application. So for today's training session, I've been sharing my screen. And the reason I chose to share my screen versus an application is because I knew I was going to be navigating to different places. I was starting at the URL, and then I was going to bring up the desktop app and go into Outlook and then jump into this meeting. And because I was going to be jumping from application to application, I didn't want to have to stop sharing and start sharing again each time I switched applications. However, when you are sharing your screen, anything that's happening on your screen, I think we've all seen some of the messages that have been popping up in that upper right-hand corner in the Q&A. Everyone will see whatever is popping up on your screen. So if you have instant messages, meeting notifications or reminders, everyone is going to see that. So that's kind of a little bit of the drawback from sharing your screen. When you share your application, so if you know you're going into a meeting and you are only going to be sharing maybe a PowerPoint or a Word document and you don't need to navigate to other applications, then I recommend sharing the actual application that your content is in. And then this way, if anything does pop up on your screen, although your participants will see a little gray screen, they won't actually see exactly what it is. So I go into share and I can choose whichever screen, I can choose whichever application. Up at the top, if I am sharing a file or I'm sharing perhaps YouTube video and I want to share some sort of audio and video, we want to click optimize for motion and video and make sure share your computer audio is on because that's where the audio is coming from. If I am not sharing anything that is a video, I want to make sure this stays at text and images, and that is what it will default to. Okay, so that's sharing. The next button is recording. As the host, I have the ability to record the meeting. I can click record. I can record it in the cloud, or I can have it record on my computer. When I click record, it starts. I can pause at any time. I do have this button all the way at the top now, this little red, so people can see that it is recording. I can pause it. If I want to take part of the conversation offline and not be part of the recording, I can resume and I can stop it at any time. Once this meeting is over and the recording is ready, then I can find that recording over on the URL when I click on recordings in the left nav bar. So that's record. Here's something new, reactions. So if you have people muted and you're just kind of asking for some quick reactions, you can ask the thumbs up, thumbs down, celebrate. You can always put in any kind of reaction to what's going on without having to have people unmute. You can also raise your hand. If you have people muted and you want them to raise their hand before you unmute them, if it's a large crowd, you can do that. And you'll see that hand icon there. As the host, I can choose to lower that too. This next button offers some more options here. Again, another connect to audio if I wanted to connect. Connecting to a video system. So if I am working in a conference room that has a WebEx board, I can connect to that using proximity. I can lock the meeting. So once that meeting is locked, up there you'll see that little lock. Anyone trying to join the meeting now will actually be held in what's called a lobby, and you can choose to admit or not admit them. I can invite and remind. So if I am in the meeting and I realize I have forgotten to invite somebody, instead of having to leave the meeting itself and go toggle and try to find an invitation, I can quickly send an invitation this way. And she'll get a quick invite to the meeting. I can also send a link to her phone and then remind. So these are 2 people that we just invited her, 2 people that were invited to this meeting that have not shown up yet. I can actually choose to click on their names and send them a reminder email. Copy meeting link. If I'm just kind of quickly want to just send someone the meeting link, maybe I'm instant messaging someone in my organization, I can do that, or copies to the clipboard. Live streaming. WebEx does give you the ability to live stream to YouTube, VBrick, Facebook. If you are interested in learning more about this, it's a bit of a process. Please contact us and we'll walk you through it. And then here's enable breakout sessions. So I can set this up ahead of time as I'm scheduling the meeting. I can even set my breakout sessions ahead of time and put people in them, or I can wait until I get here and I can enable that. And here I can choose and create assignments. This is a little bit more advanced. We're not going to go through this today, but this functionality is there for you to use. Okay, so we've gone through all this. This allows me to end or leave the meeting. I'm the host of the meeting, so I can either end it for everyone or simply leave the meeting and the meeting can continue. Participants, you see this is blue because I do have this open. I like to have this open so I can see who else is in the meeting. Chat brings up another panel here, or I can chat. I can choose to send a chat message to everyone or pick someone specific in the meeting to send a message to. And then this gives me some other panel options, notes. So let's say I am in a meeting and I only have a single screen. I don't want to have to toggle back and forth. I'm taking notes on content that I'm looking at. I can actually take my notes here and save them to my computer without having to leave the meeting. Your notes are not part of the recording. And only chat messages sent to everyone are part of the recording, not individual or private chat messages. Okay, let's take a look at the participants. So you'll see my name and Tamara. We're the only two people in this meeting right now. I am the presenter, and you can see that because the ball is right there over my icon. I can actually click on it and drag it and give it to her, and she can be the presenter. It doesn't make her the host, but it allows her to share content. The person with the ball is the person that can share the content. I can also update her role. If I need to leave the meeting, and I can make her the host if I want. I can remove the co-host role from her if I wanted to, and I can also make her closed captions, which gives her the ability to take notes and to show closed captioning. Other things to note here, when you're in a meeting and you're hearing background noise, I'm going to ask Tamara to make some noise. You can go in and actually identify where that background noise is coming from. You see that little microphone next to her name there. We can see it's green. We can see that she's actually the one making noise. We can't hear her because we're not actually joined in the audio in this meeting because we have the audio in the webinar, but we can tell she's making noise. I can go in there and quickly mute her. It does say request to unmute. So what I can do is I can click on this and send her a request. It's called a moderated unmute. You can choose, a new feature is coming where you can decide whether you want to send requests or not. But basically what that allows the person to do is you're not catching someone off guard if they're muting for a reason. So many of us are working either hybrid or working from home, and perhaps we're muted because there's a lot of noise in the background and we don't want to be caught off guard and unmuted. So you can have that set up so that the person who you wish to unmute receives the request to allow that. There has been some feedback, however, for people in more education settings with younger students who can't read that pop-up box, or older people that maybe can't see it very well. So the feature is rolling out this month and next month to turn that off, where you will be able to simply unmute them. So I can mute all or unmute all. I click this mute all button. It gives me this option to allow attendees to unmute themselves or not. So we can have what's called a hard mute. It allows you to have larger meetings and have control over the audio. Normally in the meeting setting, people had control of whether they can mute and unmute themselves, and you can kind of control that here, and I recommend it, especially if you're having a larger meeting and you don't want to hear that background noise. Another thing to take note with background noise, you can go into participant here, and you can have them muted on entry. So if you're having a large meeting and you want to make sure if people are arriving late that you're not hearing their background noise, you don't have to go and find who you need to mute, especially if you're presenting. You can actually have them mute on entry here. What I can also do is, especially for large meetings, I don't want to necessarily hear the beeps of people coming in or coming out. I can actually turn that off. Okay. So going over here, this gives you some people insights. I can chat, and we saw that I can mute. If I right click, I can also move Tamara to the lobby. So let's say I'm having a meeting. There she is. I'm having a meeting with a bunch of people. I just want 2 people to step out while the rest of us have a conversation, but I don't want them totally gone. I want to be able to get them back into the meeting without having them have to rejoin. I can move them into the lobby and then have them come back in. I can choose to admit them back in. I can also choose to expel. So let's say I'm having a meeting and I've reached that point where you're having some people, you want to have a private conversation. You don't need to move them to the lobby. Everyone needs to go, but there's one person, maybe they stepped away from their desk or they don't realize they need to leave the meeting. You can actually go in and expel them, and it'll give you that option too, and then it'll actually kick out of the meeting altogether. Oh, there she goes. Okay. All right, so we've gone through a lot of the main features inside the meeting. We went to the URL where you can see how to schedule right there on the URL, how to join your meetings there, update some preferences, and find your recordings. We took a look at the desktop app, so you can take a look at your preferences, update your meeting notifications and your calendar, and you can go in and join meetings there. We talked a little bit about the difference between a personal room meeting and a WebEx meeting. And then we hopped into this meeting itself and went through some of this main functionality. There are a lot of other features here, and I encourage you to play around with them for today's purpose. That was our 101, so I want to thank everyone for coming. I am going to stop sharing, and I am going to turn it back over to Robert, who is going to finish us up with some remote best practices.
Thank you so much. I feel like every time we do this, I learn something new. It's always something evolving and some new functionality that's really great. So thank you so much for that. Let's take a look at some WebEx best practices. So for a lot of folks, you know, they try not to turn their video on, but because it can be intimidating at first. But what you really want to do is you want to be engaging. So you want your meeting to be engaging as if you were, you know, virtually in person. So with that, you know, we recommend that you put your camera on, but with that, we also recommend that you check your background. So if you're at home or in an office setting, you want to just make sure that there's nothing in the background behind you that you don't want to have people observing, whether that, who knows what that might be. And then alternately, you want to make sure that you check your camera position, right? How many times have you joined a WebEx meeting where somebody's camera's like pointing at the ceiling or like, you know, over in the corner or, you know, who knows where. So just when you do that preview, make sure that you're framing yourself and your camera is actually pointing at what you want. Additionally, you can use headsets. So for a lot of, as Elizabeth pointed out, in a lot of environments, whether people are working from home or in a hybrid environment or sharing office space, et cetera, if you can use noise reduction headsets, it makes a big difference in the overall experience. And then if you're not presenting and if you're not actually the one who's speaking, just mute yourself because it allows reduction overall and, you know, reduces distractions within the session. Further, keep your audio connected. So choose voice over video. If you're using calling using the computer, it actually uses bandwidth from your internet. So if you have the option available, we recommend that you use Call Me or I Will Call In. That way you take that bandwidth utilization and move it to your cell phone. Then it frees up additional bandwidth for your collaboration. If you don't have strong Wi-Fi, you might want to lower your video quality, or you may even want to shut your video off if you're in an area where you have low Wi-Fi or low bandwidth. Close any unnecessary applications. So WebEx can be CPU intensive as other applications can. If you have a number of applications that are using up CPU utilization, it may impact your meeting. So we recommend that you shut down any unnecessary applications. And then also, just as a reminder, WebEx can run outside of the VPN. So you don't need VPN tunneling in order for WebEx to run. With that, some more information. If you're looking for additional Aspire WebEx 101 trainings, you can visit us at www.aspiretransforms.com/events. For Cisco recorded training sessions, they're available on the web at this link here. You'll be receiving a copy of this presentation as well as the recording. So you'll have the recording that you can view with a password, and then there's additional Cisco WebEx coded materials. For additional free trials or inquiries, you can contact us by emailing customersuccess@aspiretransforms.com. And to learn more about Aspire Technology Partners, please visit www.aspiretransforms.com. With that, we'd like to thank you very much for attending our session today. Thank you for being customers and for your interest in WebEx and Aspire Technology Partners. And with that, we'd like to wish you all a great day. Have a great day and a great week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye now.